I'm Vincent Flinn, and welcome back to the Book of Flinn, where we are reviewing Season 2 episodes of Clone Wars and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And helping me on this journey, she's quick on the soundboard, it's Raina Flinn.
Hello, everybody. If I was quicker on the soundboard, I would have actually did something.
No, do something, we'll edit it.
Well, I mean, I just deserve a for it, so... I'm working it in, Speaking of work it in, you have a new comic out.
Yes, I finally finished my Mandalorian fan comic for Clan Flynn. And the goal of it was, I had one goal, make everyone look badass in an X-Men 90s style. And everyone seems pretty happy, so I'm delighted by it.
I'm very excited. I get introduced in a nice sneaky way, which my character is sneaky because I am not, and my character is everything I want to be. A badass sneaky person with cat ears. Ta-da!
The comic is basically our Star Wars D&D campaign run wild. So it's time to start working on another one.
Yes. Speaking of Star Wars, shall we get into it?
Back to work.
All right. Season 2, Episode 12, The Mandalore Pilot. Which one? Merida? Raptor? Finzer?
I don't want to be that guy, but I think it might be the Mandalore plot.
Is it?
I assumed.
Is this a type? Oh, look at that. My eyes just don't. So, Season 2, Episode 12. Shush. The Mandalore Plot. That makes more sense. There's no pilot. So, which Mandalore? The planet. And this is where I realized, oh, the Siege of Mandalore, or the whatever it's called, the Fall of Mandalore, hasn't happened yet. So this was really just a river song order for me today. I have some notes of things I actually recognized. The quote is, "If you ignore the past, you jeopardize the future." And that quote is really hitting differently today on January 20th, 2025.
Are you listening, America?
Whoo, dear. My prediction for this episode is that Vinzer will have to call his lawyer. Otherwise, I don't know what do we know any Mandalorians at this point in the timeline? Like, Django gets mentioned, but...
Well, this is, I remember when this first came out back in the day, the only thing we had really for Mandalorian new stuff was the Karen Travis books, which was a lot of great Mandalorian culture, which carried over to canon, but it's not considered canon anymore. So when they introduced the idea that there were going to be these Mandalorians and they were just pacifists, collectively the Mandalorians of like Star Wars Galaxies and all that just went, nope, and just sort of got on with our day. And the Death Watch were portrayed as the only people, but, you know, with any balls out there. And in what we were used to in Star Wars Galaxies is Death Watch. They were our enemy. We fought them all the time. So it was hard for me to get to like these guys. But yeah, this was where Mandalorian stuff kind of got some new things, but we didn't like the idea of the pacifism thing at first. Like, we're a warrior race.
Yeah, I don't... In all of my watchings of the later things post Mandalore, this never came up. So this really must be like a blip in their history, because this isn't even mentioned at all. Like, there's no years of peace or pacifism. It's just like, we are a warrior race. And it's like, did you guys just skip over this whole chapter?
Yes.
I guess they did.
Like, what about that period we had all those peaceful squares? Shut up. Nope, didn't have it.
Duchess who? There's a council of neutral systems.
Yeah, and there's lots of them.
Which, isn't that just kind of like their own council with their own majority vote? I don't know. Just the whole thing just seems weird. But it has over 1,500 worlds in it that want to stay out of this war. And it's like, okay. Duchess Satine of Mandalore is rumored to be creating a secret army for the Separatists. And I'm like, of robots? Because it isn't like the Separatist side to use people. That's what the good guys' modus operandi is. God, that was so weird to say. And Obi-Wan is sent to Mandalore to see WTF is going on. Meanwhile, on Mandalore, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Mandalore before the Purge? Yes. And Obi-Wan lands on Mandalore, and the Duchess person is like, we're waiting for you. And I cannot figure out how gravity works as I'm watching these speeders like fly through space with no one falling over, tripping, anything. They're just like gliding along beautifully. And I'm like, physics.
Never mind, eh?
At least there's rails on this, I guess. Over at the castle, which is starting to look vaguely familiar.
Well, one thing that is true is that Mandalorians love their castles.
They say there's a prime minister of Mandalore, so I guess there's the separation of country and state, kind of like Canada has with its government, and then the queen is state or something. I don't know. Church and state, how they keep it separate. I don't know. And they're like, all the warriors were exiled to Concordia, and they died. And I'm like, are you sure? I don't believe that at all.
This was another effort to tie together some old non-canon Mandalorian stuff, because there's things like Concord Dawn and where Boba and Jango came from and stuff like that. So they're reusing some old names and incorporating into the new canon, which is where this Concordia name's from.
Yeah. So I called Concordia the Mundo because it's a Mando moon.
Oh, I hate that I like that.
And Obi-Wan isn't buying it either. Like, everybody is sus in this episode. Nobody is telling the truth. It's all weird. But they denounce Jango. This is the first time I hear him mentioned. Is he a foundling? Is there...
According to the Book of Fett, that sort of, again, it sort of ironed out a lot of stuff that was conjecture at that point. And Jango's status as a Mandalorian the answer is different depending on who you ask. Most people say no, and that he just had the armor, and he didn't really adhere to classic Mandalorian stuff. He was just, I'm doing my own kind of thing, which I totally respect. So I don't know. It just sort of depends on how strict or I guess how rigid your view of Mandalorian stuff is and where you stand on the matter. I'm of the thing where, like, if Django's cool, I'm cool with him. I don't care, but most people aren't easy going about it. It has to be black or white. So the question, I don't know.
Right. Is this the same room with the throne that we've seen Bo-Katan sitting on?
No, Bo-Katan was on her own world, I think, in the show. But it's probably very similar design element. I actually can't recall what the one in the show looked like. I remember Bo-Katan.
Because it looked like the throne area, and the colors were very reminiscent of this room. So I was like, is it the same one? Because she's sitting on a throne, and is it on Mandalore? No.
Hers wasn't on Mandalore.
No.
In the show at that point, they all thought Mandalore was wasted and they couldn't go back. So it's probably just the same, design element,
right.
Which makes sense, and I like that.
Obi-Wan and Duchess have some, like, gross flirtation, passive-aggressive flirting. It's gross.
I hate watching Kenobi flirt.
Oh, it's. I have notes on this later. But the Duchess answers with all the royal tact about how he's technically accusing her of treachery. And the aide, who I found out who he was voiced by, that was fun. He's voiced by Greg Proops. Yes. Whose Lines It Anyway? Yeah.
Not his first voice acting job in Star Wars. He did the two-headed announcer in the Boonta Eve pod race in Episode 1.
Cool.
The English-speaking side, anyway. Yeah, he's got a distinctive voice.
That's not the last voice that made me stop for a second in this episode. I did catch it. Obi-Wan shows footage of the Mando Saboteur, and the Duchess is, like, super defensive, and Obi-Wan's like, I'm not here from the Senate. I'm here from the Jedi Council. And then she suddenly just chills out, which was like chills out or changes tactic. But I guess it turns out it's just chills out. But Obi-Wan's super sus. So they go walking through this garden. And then they bring up Death Watch, which I'm like, ooh, I've heard of these guys. I remember this. Ding, ding, ding. And she's like, oh, it's just a bunch of vandals. Okay. Yeah, I don't really believe that. Meanwhile, over on the planet of warriors that died out, Amando's on a holo call with Count Dooku. Chocula's back, baby.
In all his beardy glory.
Oh, I recognize that long face anywhere.
Why the long face? I'm Count Dooku.
Chocula sales are down. Basically he's just getting upset because the Jedi's around, therefore he thinks the Republic is sniffing around, and they're like, oh no, we're gonna wait until the Republic shoots itself in the foot, and then we'll capitalize on the rebellion that will happen when there's troops down there. Over at the garden, they're still doing gross passive-aggressive flirtations and talking about what the role of a peacekeeper is, when a monument in front of them explodes and has like the Death Watch's equivalent of the Dark Mark just shows up in the over the explosion. Thought that was a little nice touch. The Duchess is like, no, it can't be. It has to be someone from the outside. Then it's like, okay, we'll come back to this later when you're going poo-poo, outside influence, poo-poo.
You're like, where's Clan Flinn? Oh, they emigrated to Corellia. It's not them.
Obi-Wan is like, everybody stay put until I interview you. And the guy's like, well, nope. And he just books it. And Obi-Wan's like, tries to apprehend the man, but then the guy starts speaking Mandalorian and then jumps off the building. And I thought this was going to be a really big dramatic drop into the fog, but nope. Nope. It's basically just like, dong. He hits the pavement of the floor below.
So I just dying you soundboarded with your own voice. That was great. Well done.
I couldn't just say dong. I had to use the soundboard. Do you know what he said in Mandalorian?
No, although I didn't actually verify that he was speaking the language, but they've done a good job at incorporating the old Karen Travis dictionary over to official canon. So I did not look up what he said. No, I'm sorry.
No, I thought that they were going to translate. Like, she'd be like, oh, he said blah, 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 like big overlooming prophecy or something. But no, just smack onto a pavement. She gives him what looks like last rites. And then she's like, anyways, we need to go to bring this body to Concordia because that's what he was speaking is where the native tongue is.
See, that's what they could have done is if it wasn't actually Mandalorian, they could have just made up a Star Wars language and said this is the dialect of wherever, right? Like, could have been anything.
Yep. Over on Mundo, aka Concordia, it used to be a mining facility, but I guess they're all shut down to help with the agricultural in the area again. And the Duchess, who's looking really normal now, I actually didn't recognize her. It was kind of like an Amidala to Padme kind of transformation. Introduces Obi-Wan to Govna Vizsla and mentions that he's working to take down Death Watch. And I'm like,
this is where your river songing comes in handy because Vizsla is a name that pops up frequently in the future of Mandalorian stuff.
Except I didn't get that reference, but I was too focused on the voice. As soon as he started talking, I'm like, nope. I know that voice. Mr. Favreau.
Yep.
So Govna Favreau follows the body out of the room, and Obi-Wan is already planning his next Snoop session. He's like, can you keep him busy? I gotta go do something here. And then he's like, here's this airpiece so we can keep in contact. I'm like, no armband with the volume set to max? Are we out of those?
A screechy walkie-talkie?
And the Duchess is like, okay, I'm against everything you're about to do. See you later. Like, Giles covering his butt. I do not agree to this whatsoever. Anyways, can you help me out with this? Over in Govna's chambers, the Duchess is like, oh, Obi-Wan's meditating. And I'm just like, I'm not buying everybody in this room is lying right now because he's like, I'm drafting a letter. And I'm like, that's not the intensity of a man drafting a condolence letter. Anyway, over to Obi-Wan meditating. He enters the mining facility and it looks perfectly operational. And he starts to inspect a very familiar prototype for a later helmet. Very interesting. White ones. And basically, Mando comes up behind him and then disappears into the dark. And then two Mandos proceed to F Obi-Wan up.
Kenobi doesn't lose often. He's taken down some hitters, but it's so funny to see Mandos knock his shit out. And he had a lot of trouble with Jango on Kamino, too. So you like to see Obi-Wan have a little challenge sometimes.
Exactly. This is where Duchess starts her downslide of complete ignorance, and she's so naive from this point out. Like, I really start to lose respect for her. She's like, who stands to gain from the rumor of Death Watch taking over Mandalore? And then there's like shifty man with the horror underglows like, Death Watch, obviously. Someone very powerful is working towards your downfall.
Who could it be?
Underglow Man. Underglow Man. Obi-Wan wakes up upside down. The amount that this man wakes up suspended or like hung up somewhere is a little concerning. Is one of those guys like their colorings? Are we supposed to know any of these Mandos?
Not at this point, I don't think.
Okay. So Obi-Wan apparently has the loud version of the wristband, and he gave her the covert one. So it activates for her, and he's like, excuse me, would you mind coming into the lair of the people who want you dead, and coming to rescue me, please? And meanwhile, she's with like the guy who we know is the lead of Death Watch. She doesn't know this yet for whatever reason. Apparently, she didn't look up at him when the glow was coming. And she's just like, anyways, I have cramps, and like runs off. She and then she leaves. Obviously, the governor totally understands what's happening here because she's practically holding her ear as she's talking into it. She's like,
rookie mistake touching her ear. I'm sure other people saw her do that, and first thing they thought of was James Bond in the rebooted series where he stopped touching your ear. I always remembered that ever since. In movies, people were touching her ear. I'm like, stop it.
Right? Duchess surprisingly falls right into the trap and the mining facility, and sees the Mandos getting orders to kill Obi-Wan via a fatal accident.
This is like I don't like this even for so-called evil Mandalorians. Like, they wouldn't leave him on some sort of Dr. Evil style trap. They would have just fucking blown his head off.
Yeah, I very much want to narrate this episode as Austin Powers.
Right?
Like, it's Duchess is trying to find and save Obi-Wan. Meanwhile, the entire time he's like getting snarky with her. I would have just left him there. Like, I was like, oh, well, couldn't have saved him. Who would have known? Like, oh, dear.
He was pretty fucked.
She creates a diversion, and then for some reason, both of the Mandalorians have to go check it out. So the Duchess sneaks in and shuts off the cracker part of it, and she's like, I haven't saved you yet. And I'm like, yes, please remind him that his ass is still in your hands, ma'am. Like... But he takes it as she's taking too long. And I'm like, no. Don't misunderstand what she's saying here. Beyond that, I don't have a lot of thoughts. It's basically they're yelling at each other, which draws everybody back into the room. More gross flirting after they incapacitate the two Mandos. They're going up a lift. They're being gross. The lift opens up and Mando's standing guard, and Obi-Wan takes care of him quickly, like punches him in the face. Is this not Beskar armor?
This is the only note in my notes that is all caps. And it says, okay, Kenobi punches a guy in the helmet, knocks him out. I don't think so, even if it's just Durasteel. Like, come on.
Right? I was like, okay, so his hands are broken now. Cool, just checking. And the elevator, they're like, oh, this isn't the floor we meant to get out on. And Mando starts shooting at them, and they bust the lift. So Obi-Wan's like, all right, I'm going to fight you. And then he doesn't have his lightsaber. Womp womp. 3 Mandos in jetpacks move into Duchess and Obi-Wan. No, we don't know any of them.
I was so on their side. Like in old Legends canon, I would not be 100% on Death Watch side, but in this episode, I totally am.
Obi-Wan uses the blaster to take one Mando out, then shoots a jetpack he launches into the air for the other 2 Mandos, knocking them over. But one Mando kind of makes it in, and Satine is like, hits him in the head with a rock. I thought she got shot here, but apparently she was okay. And then the lead Mando orders the troops to evacuate. I will handle this. He's sporting a badass cape, and he passes the one Mando who's like still trying to get up after being knocked over from an explosion. He's like, failure, shoots him. That doesn't sound very Mandalorian to me.
No, but it does sound Death Watch, unfortunately. Yeah, they're hard asses.
Obi-Wan stands to face lead Mando, and a surprise to not everybody, but definitely not me, it's Governor Favreau. But Duchess is like, yes, but I'm like, seriously, sweetie? Serious? Okay, whatever. He gives Obi-Wan his lightsaber back and then presents the darksaber.
Ta-da!
And I'm really learning about these things in the wrong order.
Yep. What's the first time you saw him? Probably when Gideon cut his way out of that TIE fighter, right?
Yes, that was the first time I saw it.
And everything after it. Now here we are.
Yeah, so thankfully I get a little bit of lore stolen from the Jedi Temple during the fall of the Old Republic. And how long ago was the Old Republic?
Well, that could be several years previously or 3,000 years ago. I'm not actually sure when that happened, but, before.
So a lightsaber fight ensues, and I wasn't prepared for the sounds that the dark saber makes. It makes it more like an anime whoop, like whoop, when it strikes the other lightsaber, and I'm like, is that booping the dark saber? Okay. Oddly pleasant sound for such a deadly weapon, but I do like the dark saber. Very sexy. Does Obi-Wan do a force jump, or does he actually fly when he jumps up to meet Vizsla with the jetpack? Because he jumps up and starts landing punches to his face, which causes them to knock down at one point. And this is when he looks really shaken and sends in the troops to finish him off.
Kenobi definitely used the Force during this fight, at least for, if not that too, but also a push. And I thought that was cheating. Like they were engaged in a fair fight, and he starts using the Force.
The other Mandos are like, well, screw this, and all launch missiles, which miss. And then they crash right into the elevator shaft to cause a cave-in, but apparently Duchess and Obi-Wan retreat somewhere in there before it explodes. I don't really understand what happens here.
These two are so protected by plot armor in this episode, it's not fit.
I was like, okay, because I'm pretty sure I just saw a giant empty shaft a few minutes ago, but now you guys just managed to land on like the second floor. Whatever. So wherever they land, they escaped, I guess, because no one's pursuing them, and they're just going to go do stuff. So I'm like, all right, well, that's the plot for part 2, I guess. But they aren't trapped in a mine, and then they start passively, aggressively flirting with each other again. So obviously, it's all fine. And this is where I start to wonder if this is just Obi-Wan's default way of talking to women because of Ventress. He did the same thing to her, too.
Yeah, which is creepy then, too.
Back on Mandalore, the Duchess's minion, Greg, is concerned about how widespread Death Watch may be, and Obi-Wan's like, well, the Separatists are definitely backing the Death Watch, and Duchess disagrees with this, and she wants to stay out of the war, so therefore that's the reason why the Separatists wouldn't be backing Death Watch. Just because she doesn't want to be a part of a war doesn't mean that the other side is using the same tactics. It just seems really naive.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Obi-Wan's like, but he's trying to coax her to understand the point that I had just made, but which doesn't at all sound like an attempt at recruitment. He's not saying you should join us so we can protect you. He's just trying to make her realize that the other side is not staying out of the war.
Yeah, you can stick your head in the sand. It won't matter.
Exactly. And she's like, she goes off on him for being like, how dare you? I want to stay out of this. And it's like, that's not what he was saying, sweetie. And then, a guy who's going to make it better, Skywalker, shows up. And he's like, oh, I'm here for the escort. And I'm like, wait, oh, right, escorting them wherever they're going. And that's the end of the episode.
And he's like, I'm here to make things worse for the second part of this.
You look tired now. The guy with the permabags under his eyes makes a comment about how Obi-Wan looks tired. I don't like the Duchess. She's so desperate to maintain peace that she believes that Vizsla and Death Watch are approaching this conflict with the same set of morals, which... No. And also, Obi-Wan, please stop flirting with everybody except for Padme. It's nice that he isn't flirting with Padme, at least. But it's almost as if he's infantilizing them. Like, it's kind of like, oh dear, like patting them on the head. And I hate that.
He flirts with the girls same way that they talk about Ahsoka to her face. It's just very... Yeah, I don't care for it at all.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, the Darksaber is cute. What about you? What do you think about this episode?
Well, I mean, See, like, I like old Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I'm not a big fan of young Obi-Wan Kenobi. I look at him, the Jedi, and this is not the first time I've said this, from a very different point of view, which is that of a aristocratic, meddling group who buy into their own powers. And I don't know, even when Obi-Wan's being cool, there's still an arrogance about him that always rubs me the wrong way. I don't know. So, but, like, I do like Obi-Wan, but, like, I don't know if I'd be friends with him. But
No, I would be with Qui-Gon.
oh, 100%. Yeah, Qui-Gon had a little common sense to him. But like I say, I like Kenobi as he gets older, like in his own show when he's gone through some shit. Like he's in his own way is still very naive at this point in his life. Mm-hmm. A lot of the Mandalorian stuff, of course, me and my friends, we didn't really like that much. We're like, oh, that's pacifist, stupid shit. And the thing that they do in the show is that if you don't hear about other Mandalorian clans, they don't exist kind of thing. It's like when Din's Sons of the Watch thing came up. It's like, wow, we never heard of that before. Like, where did that come from? And so it's I don't like the way that things get boxed in a bit. Like, it's a big galaxy. There's room for lots of stories, you know, like a rogue clan, like Clan Flinn. And it's like you're either a pacifist Mandalorian or you're a Death Watch. They're the only game in town. And I don't like that sort of this or that sort of thing. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Star Wars does that a lot. And I know fans like things in neat boxes. But anyway, like, for that reason, like the Mandalorian stuff, I don't really care for this episode. I don't like the Mandalorian stuff gets better as it goes, believe me. And by the time we get to Rebels with Sabine and Rand and all that, it's really good. But yeah, I don't really like Satine all that much either. I don't know what's going on with her hair, but I fucking can't stand that head thing. It drives me nuts.
I don't know. I just don't like. There weren't any characters that were introduced in this episode that made me care. Because I was like, all right, Satine, go off. Except you're completely, like, just go bury your head in the sand. Have fun.
I like the connection of things that to the future, like the Vizsla character and the Darksaber being introduced, and it all goes along and gets cooler as it goes. So I do like that. This is where a lot of that started. But yeah, I don't know, this pacifist Mandalorian stuff and all that, it stuck in our craw a lot back in the day, and I haven't warmed to it much, and we just sort of stick to the later stuff in the story, and we don't seem to worry too much about this stuff. Yeah, I mean, there was good fighting and stuff. I always love watching Mandalorians fight and jetpacking around and do stuff, and don't mind seeing Kenobi get humbled a little bit. So there is stuff I like about it, but overall, it wasn't one of my favorite episodes.
No, it definitely didn't have enough Harry and Marv.
I don't think there were any in this one, were there?
None. I was so deprived of my Harry and Marv in this episode. After I was typing it out, and Victor was listening to it and kind of watching it as I was typing out the notes, and he read what I was typing about the weird sound that it was making when it would clang with the other lightsaber, and he bust out laughing. He goes, oh my gosh, I can hear it. So I'm sorry if I ruined that for you, but it's got a nice little twang to it at the end that
I don't know if that's the only time we hear that sound or not. I was wondering if the game was like, get that sound out of there, we're not using that anymore. So, but well, the good thing is anyone who hears it's usually not alive to tell anybody about it. It's like, did you hear that sound that stupid thing made? No, because they're dead.
The last sound they heard was whoop.
All right, well, I've been avoiding this for weeks, but we have to talk about Buffy Season 2, Episode 12, Bad Eggs.
This is a relationship tester, if I've ever seen one. This episode really tests the relationship. If you can get past this, well, there's some other tests, but this is a good one.
Why do you keep testing our relationship with your puns? But I'm still here, and I'm still here after Bad Egg, so I think you're pretty much stuck with me. Okay, my prediction was there didn't much to go on except the old cliche bad eggs expression. So bad eggs usually means a couple of shitty people are ruining it for others. So that's my guess. Probably Xander. Tonight we start out at a mall, a 90s mall. The tiled floor, the big golden pipe railing, the fake plants. It was so 90s. I miss them so much.
Knick-knack Mall.
Oh my God, yeah.
Or the Penhorn Mall. Oh, the Penhorn
Rest
Mall.
in peace.
If you know, you know. That playground is life.
So Buffy wanted an outfit. Joyce, who is actually still here, surprisingly, says she looked like a streetwalker. in it, but, you know, a thin streetwalker, as Buffy says. Buffy gets sent on an errand to get Joyce's outfit, but she starts following some guy in a cowboy hat and his girlfriend. I'm guessing the Slayer sense is going off, so this guy's going to be totally a vampire.
Did you notice what tipped her off?
I don't recall. Like I say, it's been weeks since I've watched this.
She was looking at the mirrored escalator and noticed that he wasn't in the frame. She was talking. It looked like the girl was talking to herself.
It's an old case of, ooh, flying cup. What we do in the shadows. No, I didn't notice that actually the first time through. I don't remember that at all, so I must have been taking a note at the time. But that's really cool. A little attention to detail.
Yep.
Or attention to no detail.
Lack of.
Random 90s payphone spotting, which is a trip.
Oh, I feel like I need to wash my hands just looking at one.
Buffy goes into a closed arcade and finds Cowboy Guy. He's about to vamp out on the girl, and Buffy makes out like she's the cheated on girlfriend, and the girl runs off. Pretty clever. She definitely punched this guy in the nuts during this fight, and apparently his name's Lyle. I did get that right, Lyle, and so he's new in town, but he fucks off. He gets out of there.
How nostalgic did this scene make you for all of those, like, pinball machines and all the arcade
I gotta say, they've tried to redo the arcade thing since the 80s, but while some were good, inevitably, there's sort of like the place out in Dartmouth Crossing here. It's all just the same stuff. There's no uniqueness in arcades, and I that's why one of my fun $1 million ideas, if I ever get rich, is I'm going to open a proper 80s arcade with shit like Tron and Pac-Man and shit like that. That's an arcade. But yeah, I love seeing any arcade that's still, you know, functioning. Buffy goes back to Joyce, and the decor is killing me, the 90s style. They even have mall music playing, so again, good attention to detail. Joyce is giving her the why can't you be responsible, and is it only boys and clothes you think about, and Buffy just straight up says she's occupied with saving the world from vampires. So Joyce definitely thinks she's on drugs now.
Oh, like, she is so oblivious. There's
I love
no
that
way
she just turned that out.
There's no way she's not, like, speeding an edible home right now. She's having her own amazing race. That's why she's mad, because she's like, I thought Buffy was going to be here. This edible's going to kick in soon.
I can't wait till the weather's nice enough to do Amazing Races again. For those that don't know, Amazing Race is when Raina and I go to the shops or something, but we take an edible and we see how far we get before it kicks. The idea is to make our purchases before it kicks in and we make idiots of ourselves. But it's always a good time. But we're in the dead of fucking the 6th layer of icy hell right now. So no Amazing Races for a bit.
Coming to you from Hoth.
This is Flynn Pirate Radio, and today from Ice Planet Hoth. It sucks. What's the weather like, Juice? It sucks. All right, we cut over to the school, and Xander and Cordelia are making out in the closet. Again, in my high school, it was the sick room. You faked a stomach ache and then tell your girl to meet you there. I never did that, but I knew a guy who did. The exchange. This would work a lot better for me if you don't talk. And it'd work a lot better for me with the lights off. I forgot to write down in my notes who said who, but it's interchangeable. Either one is completely believable from either character.
Yep, 100%.
They do a little verbal sword fighting. They go to leave, but they're back to fooling around. These teenage hormones. So over in sex education class, the teacher asks who has lost countless hours due to sexual thoughts, and Xander practically leaps out of his chair. While Willow looks on the verge of a panic attack.
That was a rhetorical question, Mr. Harris.
Cordelia describes a sexual encounter, not her, in a Miata that ended in, never mind. This is a flashback reference just for a Miata. Xander asks, what about the heartbreak of halitosis while looking at Cordelia? That's brutal, man. My sister uses that like halitosis jokes all the time. They're cutting. Their barbs are noticed, I think, by Willow, who's definitely going to unravel all that. And while bringing up teenage pregnancy, the guy behind Willow in class looks like a fucking psycho. And I took a screenshot. I think I've seen him in other stuff, but he's sitting behind Willow and he just looks absolutely insane. Like, look at this guy.
Yes. This guy looks like the guy who defaced a church with his own feces in my community. Welcome to the Eastern Shore.
Did you just sing that to the 90s internet tune? He's
I
surfing on the
totally
internet.
did. I
Wow,
totally did.
that's part of our culture now. All right, the assignment: pair up and parent some eggs together. And I'm like, I made a note. Here we go. Cordelia pairs up quickly with some rando and says, "Want to have a baby?" Xander tries and fails to pair up with someone else.
I guess he does, though, because if not, I'm not sure why he didn't jump at Buffy's chance, but...
So at the library, Willow and Xander come in. Buffy missed class due to vampires. Like, you put that on a note. Willow gives Buffy her egg. Xander says it's about the whole sex leads to responsibility, which I don't get. We know, Xander. We know. We know you're not getting any sex. Buffy protests that she can't take care of things. She killed her Gigapet by sitting on it.
Oh, Gigapet.
Is that an actual brand?
I don't know. I think of like the Tatamagotchis and
Yeah, that's what I took it to be.
I figured those. It was basically like those.
I didn't have one. I was too busy drinking. So Buffy missed class, and she's the odd number, so she's a single egg mom. Buffy says, "I am doomed to live my mother's life." Ouch! Joyce has been murdered.
I enjoy that at the beginning of the scene, Giles is like hiding in the cage, trying to escape the teenage moment that's happening out there. And then he's so good at ignoring it that he doesn't even understand why they have eggs, even though he just had a whole conversation. They just had a whole conversation about it.
Giles finds info on Cowboy Lyle. He's a vampire from the Old West, which is kind of a cool idea. You look a little ridiculous as a vampire cowboy in the 90s, but, in the 1800s, this guy was probably scary as shit. He and his brother massacred a Mexican town in 1886, which was before they became vampires. All I can say is if Cowboy Lyle is hanging around in 90s malls and still not out on the range, he's lost his way as a cowboy. Giles says the brothers are not amongst the great thinkers of the world and were probably drawn here by the Hellmouth power, which is what a convenient plot way to draw in monsters. What a great insult. Giles finally notices the eggs. Willow says maybe Angel can help find the cowboys. Xander mouths off. Buffy's like, "Oh, please." And then, of course, the very next scene is what I expected, Buffy and Angel making out in the bushes. And it went on for a while. I hate watching people make out on TV. It's too...
I love Buffy and I love Angel and I love them together, but not like this. This episode was too much for me. I'm a very limited PDA person. No. Don't want to watch that. I'm good, thanks.
It did go on. It went on for like a fortnight.
The only note that I had for this scene was so much smacking.
Oh, that's just it. Like, I gotta mute that shit.
I can't do it. I'm not an ASMR girl. I can't do it.
Oh, yeah. All right, at the graveyard, they took a 5-second break to, quote, hunt, and then right back to making out. Meanwhile, Red Dead Redemption is sitting nearby in full cowboy gear watching him. I love these in like fucking full gear. And this is an epic fail on Buffy and Angel's part. It really is.
I find it interesting that they know who Angelus is, though.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
Considering he would have been changed. He was still...
He would have been evil, right?
Yeah, I think... I'm trying to remember when he got his curse. We end up finding out. Never mind.
Oh, God. He didn't make these guys, did he? Was he responsible for that Mexican massacre?
No.
So one of the brothers, Hector, I've definitely seen him before in a few things in the 90s. I'm almost 100% positive that he was in the first episode of Deadwood where he gets hanged. He was a horse thief. Him and Seth Bullock, which is played by Timothy Olyphant, who's fantastic in that show. The show starts off with him trying to talk his way out, and then a lynch mob shows up for him. Then he hangs him legally. But I definitely recognize this guy. So Hector wants to kill the Slayer now, but he's definitely not scared. But Lyle says he's got a plan. And I'm like, oh boy, the great thinker has a plan. At Buffy's house, she's doing her egg care checklist, and she called it Egbert, naturally. I mean, what else are you going to call it?
This is where I get my love for puns. Egbert? Like, Buffy's the punniest person.
Was this whole podcast idea a way for you just to get me to this episode? And
oh, God, no. There's going to be so many more examples of this.
All right, this is where the episode does, it seems to happen in every episode lately, is it just drives straight off the road and into the cornfield. Because around 2 a.m., the fucking egg starts to hatch, which is not that surprising, but a fucking tentacle comes out of it. What the fuck?
All I have is nope.
And all it like roots into Buffy's head. I'm like, all right. Nice big left turn.
Nope. Have a commercial.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, nope. So in the what I've called the hobo tunnel, the brothers are camped out in one of Sunnydale's many underground hobo tunnels.
This is their sewers, yeah.
And I might have heard this wrong, but did Hector say there isn't a decent whore in the whole city limits, or did he say whorehouse?
I'm pretty sure. Or yeah.
Either way, yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. Just the fact that
Yeah, no censors caught that?
yeah, no censors
Somebody?
got that. Where's
Even
my,
an editor? No?
where's
Okay.
my going here?
So Hector is calling Lyle a wimp for following Buffy and not attacking. Then they decide to have a fist fight because they're tough cowboys.
Oh yeah. I don't understand the point of this entire scene. I find it just makes the episode lag. It's like they didn't have enough for a full episode with plot A or one with plot B, and they couldn't find other plot A's and plot B's to throw in. It just I didn't like.
Some cutscenes got put back in, apparently.
Yeah.
Back at Buffy's, the tentacle egg roots are gone. Oh, and I'm like, what the fuck did I even just say? The egg is normal. The day starts off normal, but Buffy's a little out of sorts. So at the library, Giles says to the three amigos, what are you guys doing hanging around? Health class is canceled.
There you are, looking.
How did the hunt go? No luck. Xander makes big smoochies jokes, and he's 100% accurate. So judging by Xander's energy and Willow and Buffy both looking tired, I'm guessing the eggs are only targeting the girls or just people who have a brain.
Also valid. Oh my god.
So they're very protective of their eggs. And even Xander's fucking around with this has them all stressed out because even Giles gasped when he dropped it. But that was because he's English and wouldn't want a mess.
It's true. Think about that in the carpet.
Xander hard-boiled his, so now I'm guessing he's killed the parasite meant for him and will end up being the hero in this one, which is a terrible thought in its own.
What a good episode to have him be the centric focus of. Yay!
There's a twitching egg hiding in the bookshelf, and now I'm wondering if I'm in a fever dream about cowboys because they ate some bad eggs.
Cowboys and aliens.
So Xander is on fire being annoying in the scene. Cordelia enters, says Mr. Whitmore didn't come in today, which seems like big news, but in reality, students would be like, who cares? I expect him to now be a chicken man off laying eggs somewhere. But he's missing, presumed dead. Presumed by Cordelia, anyway. But Giles thinks we should give it a few more hours. Teacher didn't come in, who cares? Cordelia lures Xander away with closet talk. And Willow comments on their weirdness.
I would mock Cordelia's closet option if she wasn't already one who found a body in the freezer or a locker, a whole classroom. Like, you know what?
By rights, Cordelia should be traumatized beyond the ability to speak, but she's handled it all pretty good.
Yep, she's a trooper.
Buffy's gonna sweep the graveyard again tonight. Angel is helping you, right? He does what he can. Sorry about that. So they're making out again. And I'm like, is there like an old cemetery watch guy who ever runs them off ever? He doesn't know they're there fighting demons and stuff. He's like, those kids are here sucking face again. Get out of here. So Buffy extricates herself and she's going to head home. Angel is going to hunt. The egg discussion leads to Buffy, maybe kids in the future, but it won't be with Angel. He says he can't, so I take it to mean vampires are sterile in this universe.
The melodrama of this scene. I have here, work for the telephone company and volunteer for Red Cross are the first options you come up with that vampires can't be. I'm like, why can't they work for a telephone company? They could just work at night. Why can't they volunteer for the Red Cross? They're already not drinking human.
Buffy's 16-year-old, all I want is you in my future. That's killing me a little, because how many of us knew friends that knew they were going to get married at 16, 17, or not at 16, but they knew this was the guy they were going to marry when they were 18, and they had it all worked out.
He's the love of my life. You don't understand.
Yeah, that kills me. Some more making out, and then it fades away Truman's Show style, so I assume they're banging on some guy's grave or something. The security guy at night checks out an open door at school to the Freddy Krueger boiler room basement. He finds a tunnel in the wall, and the health teacher knocks him out with like a pickaxe. He's like, I've seen Alien, I know where this is going. So back at Buffy, she's sneaking in for like the millionth time, and her egg is vibrating. Okay, I know I just referenced Alien, but what the fuck? A parasitoid bursts out and runs under the bed. Now, the house I would have burned the whole place down. I was like, sorry.
Just get your mom, go.
Buffy grabs an iron, good call. But she loses track of it. This once happened to me while living in Arizona with a scorpion in the room. Not fun. And she stakes it, but what about the others like Willow? Calls her up to warn her. Says hers is in the fridge, so I think she's already under its influence, but like, oh yeah, sure.
What time is it? Why are you calling your friend? Do you know how brave it is to call your friend's place the landline in the middle of the night?
Oh yeah.
I still have anxiety from this scene.
You get yelled at for that shit. Joyce bursts in for some parenting, like, why are you dressed? Who is on the phone? She's on it today. This is very out of character for Joyce. I'm like, shouldn't you be climbing Everest or K2 or something?
She didn't have her bed toque tonight.
It will take a turn on her.
She didn't sleep through it like she usually does.
So Buffy gets grounded in an unprecedented move. Not even a bronze. Like, you're grounded, 16-year-old. No going to the fucking nightclub. Although, mind you, I have a note here. I plan to make sure my teenage kid doesn't go near any fucking bars either, especially at 16.
Yeah. There's a Mean Girls situation. The dad, they're so not used to grounding the main character that they ground him, and then she goes out to do mathlete stuff. And she's just like, the mom goes, where is she? She's grounded. And the dad's like, oh, does that mean she can't go outside? Like, I feel like Joyce at one point was very much in that situation, maybe in LA. I don't know.
We all learn the hard way. All right, at school, Buffy is sentenced to study at the library till Joyce picks her up. Buffy is wishing Joyce would go out of town for a few months at this point.
Where's Ted when you need him?
Ooh, too soon. I've seen John Ritter and a few other posts just around the internet since, and I can't look at the same thing. Oh, there's John Ritter. Well, oh, there's Ted.
I love that. That was my first ever introduction, really, to John Ritter for the most
Oh, man.
part.
Yeah, I watched Three's Company when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Completely missing all the sexual references. I just thought Jack was just a weirdo.
Yeah, 100%. All the stuffed animal backpacks in this.
Oh my God, yeah. Cordelia defends her right to have been wearing a bear backpack before it was cool. I don't know if it was ever cool, but
It was.
Xander decides his hard-boiled egg child is a snack and starts to peel it, which is kind of funny. So Buffy brought the creepy crawly, which means she has it in her backpack, which is better than Willow's, which has taken up position in the tramp stamp area.
No.
Xander manages to see the monstrous thing in his egg before actually biting it. A lot of puke-inducing stuff in this episode.
I felt for Xander in this moment, man.
Oh,
As
so
much
bad.
of a jerk as he is, I felt for him in this moment.
Yeah. So back in the library, they're studying the crawly. I'm actually annoyed with myself that I didn't see that Cordelia's bear bag was going to be a thing. You know, like... So Willow mutters something here about the health teacher, but I couldn't really catch what it was.
Yes, yeah, she basically said the entire thing. Oh, he probably was taken over by the mother bees or whatever.
Okay.
And then they were like, wait, what? And then that's when.
Okay.
Yeah. She was very matter of fact about it, which is why it's
Yeah.
easy to miss.
That one just didn't sink into my thick head for some reason. Anyway, Cordelia and Willow turn on Buffy and Xander and dump them in a closet with the help of some obviously other egged up students.
Egged up. Oh dear.
You're hopped up on eggs, aren't you? Xander got dumped on his face pretty good.
In the first season, you were jacked in. And now in second season, you're egged up.
Okay, so a lot of students and at least one faculty member are under egg control, but what room are they going to in the school that has all these axes and shit? Like, there's enough to go around.
I had that same note. Why would a school need this many pickaxes?
It reminded me, I watched recently the movie Twister from the 90s where they go into the end and there's all these sides and they're like, who are these people? Like, what is going on in this school?
I also have a note. Since when can Cordy take out a Slayer? She just knocks her right out.
That's valid.
Yeah, I didn't really find that one super believable. She should have gotten the microscope to the head, but I think she just had like a bat or something.
Which would you rather take to the head, a school microscope or a bat?
A bat. Microscopes have edges, man. You can cave in a skull so fast that way.
Remember high school ones being quite heavy.
Yeah.
So they go into the basement and into the Big Egg Tunnel. Joyce shows up at the library looking for Buffy. So there is a sign that says website coming and bus brats talk. It's like, what's the sign when you walk into the library? So I look forward to seeing the library website. Joyce finds Giles and they discuss some parental stuff. Joyce sees one of his demon books open and he plays it off. But it occurs to me that stuff like this and Buffy's secret identity is always getting her grounded. It's inevitable that Joyce learn the truth. So at some point, every time I make a prediction like this, I'm like, this is going to happen in a few episodes or maybe a season. But with this show, it might be this episode. Like, as soon as you realize something's probably going to happen down the line, it happens very quickly. But it just seems inevitable to me that eventually Joyce is going to be in on what Buffy does. And maybe then she won't get grounded quite so much. So it turns out Giles is egged up too. And he plants a Crawley on Joyce and gets her into the Egg Drone Cult. I was in a band called Egg Drone Cult. So Buffy and Xander come to and let slip a little clue about his closet makeouts. Couldn't help himself. They left a few eggs in there with them, and Buffy smashes them with a toolbox and kicks the door open, a good door kick.
Xander is as good at hiding his relationship with Cordy as Buffy is hiding her secret identity from her mother. Like she literally told her this episode.
No Giles in the library. Buffy, he picked a hell of a time to get a life.
These two are in charge of research.
They try to follow up on a clue Willow said about a Bezoar, which I only remember from Harry Potter.
Yep.
Luckily, Giles left the answer open to the right page. How considerate.
And the Hell Beast book.
Xander steps on some old eggshells, and can I just say how fucking hilarious it is that they are just using normal eggs for this? No special effects, no paint, just like the eggs from Sobeys.
This is the low-budget episode it has to be.
So in the basement tunnel, the drones are marching in where everyone's digging and harvesting more eggs, and we get a look at the big Crawley under the earth as Buffy reads off the lore about a big prehistoric parasite that can take control of its host by something called neuroclamping. So once things start getting revealed, you kind of see which way it's going to go. Like, it's like, okay, it makes sense that there's a big mother brain kind of thing. They hear a student losing his shit. And was that Danny Strong again? Is that Danny Strong losing his shit in the hallway?
Yeah.
He fucking was losing it, man. He's like, I got one spot in this show I'm fucking giving her.
Jonathan's the best.
So they go to help him, but he's been clamped. He's fine.
He's been egged up.
What a drastic change from to I'm fine. It was jarring.
That's
right?
how fast my mood can change. It's great.
So Buffy and Xander follow him down to the tunnel. Buffy does. At this point, I was like, Buffy doesn't take a weapon at all. And Xander says, be careful, then falls on his ass. Pretty good comedic physical comedy there. I got to hand it to him.
Yeah. Buffy is like the cavalry. If I want a weapon, I'll take mine.
There you go. I'll take yours. They find the eggery, as I'm now calling it.
The eggery.
Now Buffy says she needs a weapon and goes back. Xander infiltrates as a mindless drone. Insert joke.
Necessary.
I was surprised that he didn't spoil his cover by dropping the egg basket that got handed to him. I feel like that would set the whole hive off, but never mind. My next note is, oh right, the fucking cowboys. I forgot about them. Fight ensues. So they tumble into the eggery, and Lyle is like, what in tarnation? And Buffy sees her mom there, and Willow is like, kill them. And suddenly it's Buffy and Lyle versus the students, but also still Buffy versus Lyle. I don't imagine Lyle is pulling his punches, so a few kids probably just got punched to death in this scene. Like, why would he pull his punch on these human kids?
Oh.
So Xander finds Cordelia and another kid in an adjacent tunnel. Xander tries to appeal to her, and he gets punched for his trouble, and then he punches out Cordelia. And the face you're making, I made the same face. Not cool.
So not necessary. Like, not. I have no words right now.
Yeah, wasn't a good look, even in the context of the story. They could have done something else, I would have accepted getting hit over the head with a microscope as opposed to a closed fist punch to the face. It just, that wasn't right.
Yeah. Just something. Just like, just some sort of subduing or whatnot, or just like a run away or let her go back to her work. Or you know what? Don't even have the scene where she gets punched out. Just don't even have them interact. Why?
So Hector joins the party and he's like, look at here, a big weird brain thing. And then he gets tentacled immediately and eaten. Like, well, he lasts longer than he did in the Deadwood episode. Hypnotized Joyce tries to pickaxe Buffy, which is fucking hilarious. So Buffy gets tentacled in, but luckily a pickaxe went in with her and she kills it. And the clampers die and everyone immediately falls down. I like how they didn't really show it. She's just in there like a cartoon, raising hell with a pickaxe. Lyle is like, why? Never mind. Buffy crawls out covered in black goo. And Lyle's like, happy trails, and fucks off with a hat tip, which is hilarious. And I was like, there's no way these guys are going to survive this episode. Hector didn't, but are we going to see Cowboy Lyle again? I can do more bad cowboy jokes. So the students mill about outside, and Giles is like, it was a gas leak, everyone. Go home. It was a gas leak. It was a gas leak. Classic excuse.
Except Giles doesn't even know what happened.
Yeah, just go-to excuse. Yep. And Buffy has such a lucky break about the gas leak excuse because she's still in trouble for not being at the library, but like at least he can explain a little bit. Like I was fighting an egg monster in the basement. Whatever, you're grounded more. But Joyce does do some double grounding and doesn't allow her to leave her room. Yep. So what's the next scene? Of course, it's making out with Angel, but what a nice old perv. He came to the window, so she's not technically out of the room.
The whole moment with Joyce and Buffy is relatable. I feel like you set a boundary and you ground, and then it seems like it has no effect.
Yeah, then the kid definitely finds the way around it while still technically following the. I mean, we've all been there. That's how it goes.
I'm in that chapter in my life right now.
Yeah.
Fuck everybody.
She just raised her glass when she said that. So this episode was very silly and used an old sci-fi cliche with the sort of the hive mind control thing, but it made up for it by being a bit of a funny episode, and I genuinely laughed out loud a few times. So this one gets a bit of a pass, except for the punching in the face, the girl punching Cordelia out. Other than that. And although I hate the gross stuff in it, like the mother brain and alien-style parasites and extended makeout sessions with David Bourney as, like, where was the editor on this? Cuts!
I think this might have been the scene where they were eating disgusting foods to try to gross the other one out. I think it might have been this episode, because I know that they did it when they had extended makeout scenes, but I feel like this might have been where it started. Final verdict. I enjoyed the episode. Like I said, a couple parts, the gross part and the punching part I didn't like. But otherwise, it was nothing terribly exceptional. Oh, I love you. So, where do you think we're going to go from here? Jesus Christ, I didn't think we'd be here from there. Like, what's this? I don't know, man. There's just this season's continually surprising me. Yeah, it's funny that you use that word in particular. We'll stay tuned for next week. I thought it was funny enough to have, and it was a left turn enough to have like this gross monstrous thing in the basement, but to have all the crazy cowboy shit mixed in there, like they didn't need to be cowboys. They could have been any vampires. They didn't even really need the vampires to be in it, honestly. But there they were. You could have had like 1920s or 1930s like gangsta vampires. You could have had almost everything. What was this? See, now that'd be great. A couple guys from Capone's crew that were vampires or something. Yes. A couple guys from Sopranos. Oh, Sylvia, look at this fucking thing. The big fucking brain. I just turned to Michael Rappaport to, Ma! The fucking big brain in the basement. Clamp me the fucking thing. It's okay, Lucy. That ain't gonna hurt you, Lucy. This podcast just got as derailed, if not more, than this episode does for this season. But it gets back on track. But the show or us? I don't think either's likely. Yeah.
Well, this seems like a good time to end for the night. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And now I'm heading for the exit.
Oh, you're the best.